It didn't feel like a breakup. It felt like quietly dying in a room full of warm lights. Friday night, if you'd asked me a month ago what happiness looked like, I'd have said this: fuzzy socks, warm popcorn with nutritional yeast, a couch that's been through every season of The Office twice, and Harrison next to me teasing me about always falling asleep before the climax of any movie. We called it our reset night. Every Friday, no matter how chaotic the week was, we'd shut out the world, make something delicious. Usually my weird vegan popcorn mix, and watch whatever we felt like. Sometimes he picked, sometimes I did. It was silly, cozy, domestic. Ours that Friday, Harrison chose a documentary on cryptocurrency. Not my favorite, but I didn't care. I curled into him, blanket tucked under my chin, thinking how close we were to everything we dreamed of. We just put a deposit down on a little blue craftsman house in the suburbs. A porch swing, a patch of backyard. I already pictured us painting a doghouse for. We even had names picked out for future kids, something classic, something sweet. We joked about getting a Costco membership being the real sign of commitment. In every way that counted, I thought we were already a family. About 40 minutes into the film, I noticed Harrison was out cold, mouth slightly open, hands still resting on the remote. I smiled. It wasn't unusual. He'd been coming home late every night that week, claiming the office was swamped with some client launch. I even offered to bring him dinner one night, but he said he was in flow and didn't want to break it. I was about to wake him, gently suggest we head to bed when his phone buzzed on the coffee table. Then again and again. It was unlocked. I didn't mean to look. Honestly, I didn't. But the notifications rolled in one after another, and my eyes, stupid, traders read them before my brain even told me not to. Miss your touch already? Last night was amazing. Can't wait to see you again tomorrow. The sender's name, work project. I blinked. Read it again. My mind scrambled for logic. Maybe it was a joke. Maybe a friend texting him something meant for someone else. Maybe... No, it wasn't. I picked up the phone with trembling hands, just to confirm I told myself. Just a peek, but what I found pulled the floor out from under me. Weeks, no months of messages, flirty at first, then suggestive, then explicit. Hotel bookings, dinner plans, pictures, conversations about me. He referred to me as the Gloria situation, said he was working through it but didn't want to hurt her more than necessary. As if this wasn't already gutting me, I felt hollow. Not angry, not yet. Just like I had stepped out of my own life and into someone else's. A nightmare with my face on the girl being betrayed. I put the phone back, neatly, carefully, like if I returned everything to its place, maybe it hadn't happened. Then I pulled the throw blanket over him, yes, seriously, and walked into the bathroom, where I had a panic attack so silent I thought I might burst. I sat on the floor, pressed my face into a towel, bit down hard just to muffle the sob building in my chest. My hands were ice. My mouth dry. I kept repeating in my head, no, not him, not us, no. But it was him, and it was us, and it was real. I didn't confront him that night. Instead, I lay beside him in bed, pretending to sleep, listening to the sound of his breathing, wondering how many nights I'd done this while he was texting her. By morning, I still hadn't spoken a word. He woke up cheerful, kissed my forehead, made coffee, asked if I preferred sage or seafoam for the living room wall. I laughed. I actually laughed. An Oscar-worthy performance, honestly. I wanted to scream, to throw the mug across the kitchen, to ask him how he could look me in the eye and still say he loved me. But I didn't, because suddenly something inside me shifted. I didn't want just the truth. I wanted control. I wanted him to know without question what exactly he threw away. I was still in the relationship, but emotionally, I had already left the building. The morning after discovering the messages felt like waking up inside a stranger's life. I moved through the kitchen like a ghost pouring coffee, nodding at Harrison's small talk about home inspection dates and backyard fire pits. All while my heart screamed behind every blink, I couldn't believe how normal he was acting. No guilt, no tension, no clue that just 12 hours earlier I had found texts from a woman he was planning to sleep with again in less than a week. I pretended to sip my coffee. He suggested we go furniture shopping on Sunday. I smiled. Inside, I was already packing my soul up in boxes. When he left for the gym, though, now I was 90% sure that meant Dina's place. I dialed Sally. She picked up on the second ring, and I didn't even say hello. I just whispered, I think he's cheating on me. 30 minutes later, she was on my couch, barefoot, holding a laptop in one hand and a bottle of oat milk chai in the other. We dove in. First, the joint credit card, meant for shared expenses. We opened the app and Sally started scrolling. Her eyes got wide. Girl, there were charges at restaurants I'd never eaten at Uber's at 1:47 a.m. A hotel near his office last Saturday, the day he told me he had to cover for someone who called out, I felt sick, like I'd swallowed concrete, and still I clung to denial. Maybe it's for work, I offered weakly. Maybe he took a client to dinner. Sally looked at me the way only a best friend can. Kind, sad, unforgivingly honest Gloria. He's cheating. The words hung in the air like smoke from a house fire. I felt dizzy, but instead of collapsing, I stood up. I started pacing, thinking, calculating. I didn't want to scream or throw things or call him crying. I wanted answers. I wanted control. I wanted him to know that I knew when the moment was right. I didn't want to give him a single inch of ground to gaslight me. Sally called it Operation Curtain Pull. Step 1, keep playing the part. Let him believe everything is fine. Step 2, gather proof, undeniable, cold, clear. That night, I made Harrison's favorite dinner, sat across from him at our table, watched him smile at his phone between bites. He said it was a Slack message from work. I said nothing. He asked if I wanted to watch something on Netflix. I said yes. I curled into him, my head on his chest. Pretending it still felt safe there later, I initiated intimacy, and immediately after I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, hating myself, hating him, hating that this had become my reality, but I had to keep playing the game. Sunday morning over eggs and coffee. I mentioned casually that I'd been invited to a small HR conference in Denver the following weekend, that it was important that it might help me with promotion. He perked up too quickly. Oh, he said, trying to sound disappointed. You'll be gone all weekend? I nodded, hiding the lump in my throat. He said something like, I'll just get some work done, maybe do a deep clean. I smiled and said, sounds good. Inside, I screamed. Monday, I opened a new bank account. Tuesday, I downloaded our mobile carrier app and checked his location history. Turns out every Tuesday and Thursday night, his late work nights, he'd been at the same apartment complex across town. I looked it up. Guess who lived there, Dina? Her name popped up when I did a quick social search of the address. Her Instagram bio still said new to the city, here for the vibes. I nearly threw my phone across the room, but I didn't. Instead, I printed the page. Wednesday, I went to his work happy hour, the one I usually skipped, and I met her. Dina was exactly what I imagined, artfully put together, warm but calculated, confident in a way that felt rehearsed. She reached out her hand. You must be Gloria. Harrison told me you were lovely. Lovely. The word tasted like acid in my mouth, I said. Nice earrings, and smiled like I didn't know she'd worn them while sleeping with my boyfriend. Harrison hovered the whole night, watching us, laughing too loudly, being the overcompensating version of himself. I felt like I was in a movie where I already knew the ending, and it wasn't a happy one. That night I cried again, not because I missed him, but because I missed me, the version of myself that didn't yet know betrayal. Thursday, I installed a Ring camera at our front door for safety. Harrison thought it was sweet, said I was being responsible. He had no idea. He thought I was going on a business trip. I was planning a revelation. Thursday evening, I stood by the door with my overnight bag, the kind you'd pack for a modest 3-day conference, button-downs flats, a novel I had no intention of reading. Harrison kissed me goodbye, his hand brushing mine like it always did. Text me when you land, he said with that fake concern men use when they think they're still winning. I smiled, told him I'd miss him too. I got in the car, drove 3 blocks, and turned back. Not to him, to me, to Sally's apartment where we'd transformed her guest room into mission control. My laptop was open folders labeled Finances Messages, Dina. The Ring app was already active, the snacks were laid out. The wine was chilled, the camera angle was perfect. At 7:36 p.m., the Ring buzzed, and there she was, Dina wearing a silk wrap dress that screamed, I'm not afraid of being seen, holding a bottle of red wine and an overnight bag with a designer logo. I felt like I was watching a movie, except this was my door, my apartment, my life. She didn't even knock. Harrison opened the door instantly, already smiling. He pulled her in for a kiss that made my stomach twist. Not shy, not careful. Just entitled, I hit record. Their voices came through crystal clear on the Ring mic. It's so nice to finally have the place to ourselves. I was worried she'd cancel the trip last minute. You don't have to worry about her tonight. The way they laughed, the way they moved like they'd done this a dozen times before. Like I didn't exist, like I hadn't been sleeping 6 inches from the man who now kissed another woman on the doorstep of our shared home. I wanted to scream, but instead I opened my laptop and watched every step, every touch, every lie, living and breathing in real time. That night, Sally made us grilled cheese and poured too much wine. I didn't eat much. I couldn't. My stomach was too full of adrenaline and rage. At midnight, I got bold. I took my old iPhone, and with Sally's brother waiting downstairs, I climbed the fire escape outside my old building. Our apartment had a small wraparound balcony, and Harrison predictably had left the bedroom curtains half drawn. I placed the phone in a planner camera angled perfectly. Then I left. By Friday morning, Harrison was back at work. I waited an hour to be sure, then returned to the apartment. It was eerily quiet. I had exactly 3 hours. Sally brought 2 of her brothers, and we moved fast. I only took what was mine. My clothes, my books, my grandmother's quilt, the vintage record player I'd saved months for. I left the joint couch, the cookware set we'd picked out together, even the rug I loved. I didn't want things. I wanted freedom. I wanted peace. I found Dina's lipstick in the bathroom, her hairbrush on my vanity, a pair of earrings on the nightstand. I took none of it. Instead, I left something else. A folder on the kitchen table. Inside were screenshots of texts, credit card statements, GPS logs, a printed picture of Dina on our doorstep, time-stamped. I also left my apartment key and a single note. Don't contact me. I know everything. Then I walked out, and I didn't cry. Not this time, because I'd already cried enough for the both of us. That afternoon, the first email came through on my work inbox because I forgot to block him there. 12:34 p.m. Gloria, please tell me this isn't what it looks like. 12:47 p.m. Let's talk. You owe me that much. 1:03 p.m. Don't do anything you'll regret. Too late. He'd already taught me how to regret everything. That night, I uploaded the ring footage to a private folder just in case I didn't share it not yet. I wasn't sure what I would do with it. I just knew I needed to own it. I slept at Sally's on the pull-out couch, my heart still buzzing with the energy of what I'd done. I'd walked away. Not because I was weak, but because I'd finally remembered who I was before him, and I wasn't done yet. I thought leaving would be the hardest part. Turns out it was learning how to stay gone. I didn't feel triumphant the day I left. I felt empty, like someone had scooped my insides out and left just the shell. No screaming, no rage, no melodrama, just this hollow ache that sat in my chest like a stone. I stayed at Sally's the first few nights barely speaking. We watched reruns of Parks and Rec while I picked at my food and she tried not to hover. My phone buzzed nonstop. Emails, missed calls, DMs from numbers I didn't recognize. Harrison was relentless. I blocked him on every platform. But somehow he still got through work email, unknown numbers, burner accounts. Each message twisted the knife deeper. Some were desperate. Please don't throw everything away over one mistake. Some were manipulative. You invaded my privacy. You lied too. That's not okay either. Some were cruel. I never thought you'd be this vindictive. And still, I didn't reply, but I read every word. That was my mistake. Each time I did, it was like reliving the betrayal. A new wound on top of the old one. Until Saturday morning when his mom called, I almost didn't pick up. I'd forgotten to block her number. I expected guilt, pressure, maybe even a lecture. But instead, she cried. She told me she was ashamed, that Harrison had tried to lie at first, but the folder I left behind had said everything. She and his dad had helped with the house deposit, and now they were pulling out too. She said, "I'm so sorry. I don't know how I raised a man capable of this." I sat there on the edge of Sally's bed, phone pressed to my cheek, completely still. I hadn't expected kindness, especially not from his side. And that was the first moment I felt something shift inside me. Like maybe I wasn't crazy. Like maybe walking away wasn't the overreaction everyone warned me about. It was the only sane response. Still, I couldn't stay at Sally's forever. And going back to our apartment wasn't an option. That space had too many memories, too many ghosts. I needed clean air. I found a tiny studio in a quiet neighborhood with creaky floors and bad street parking, but huge windows that let in the afternoon light like a warm blanket. I signed the lease that Monday. That same day, I went to my first therapy session. It felt strange at first sitting across from someone who didn't know me, didn't know him, didn't even know what I looked like in love, but it also felt safe. I told her about the texts, the footage, the emails, the silence that followed the explosion, and she didn't say, "You poor thing." She said, "That sounds incredibly painful and incredibly brave." She said, "You took your pain and turned it into a boundary. No one had ever framed it that way before. Not even me." That week, I started doing little things to reclaim my life. I bought myself flowers, not for any occasion, just because the Trader Joe's bouquet looked like summer. I played music again, not background noise, but loud and alive songs. I used to dance too when I still felt free in my body. I called my mom. We hadn't talked in weeks. She didn't ask about Harrison, just told me she missed my voice, and I let myself cry. Not sobbing on the floor crying, but soft tears. The kind that come when you're brushing your teeth and a lyric hits too close, or when you're folding laundry and find a t-shirt that still smells like him. but I let them fall. And then I kept folding. One night, about 10 days after I moved out, I sat on the floor of my new place, still surrounded by half unpacked boxes, and lit a candle. I wrote in my journal, "This isn't where I thought I'd be, but it's where I needed to be." And maybe that's enough for now. I slept better that night. Not because I was healed, but because I'd finally stopped pretending I wasn't hurt. That in itself was a kind of healing too. I didn't just leave him, I found myself. It happened one ordinary Wednesday. I was sitting at this indie coffee shop on the other side of town, too quirky for Harrison to ever have set foot in. I was writing in my journal, as my therapist had suggested. There was a mint tea in front of me, a scone I was picking apart absent-mindedly, and some indie folk song humming through the speakers. I was okay. Not healed, not whole, but okay. And then I heard it. Gloria, my stomach dropped. I looked up. There he was, Harrison thinner, paler, a shadow of the man I once built a life with. His hair looked unbrushed, his shirt was wrinkled, and there were dark half moons under his eyes that makeup couldn't fix. For a moment, I froze. Then I exhaled and said, "Hi." He asked to sit down. I nodded, mostly out of shock. My body moved before my brain could object. I hadn't seen him since the day I left. Not in person, not face to face. He started talking before I could say anything. About Dina, about how it started as late nights and flirty banter, about how he never meant for it to happen, about stress and pressure and not knowing what he wanted, about how he still loved me, about how he didn't realize what he had until it was gone. I listened. I didn't interrupt. I didn't cry. Then he talked about the footage, the folder, his parents. They were devastated, he admitted. They made me pay them back. Said they were embarrassed to call me their son. He told me he'd been put on probation at work, that he'd lost the team he used to manage, that Larry, the coworker who was supposed to get the promotion, was finally being considered again. "I'm moving to Seattle next month," he added, starting over. And then he asked the question that finally shattered the script. "Do you think you'll ever be able to forgive me?" I looked him in the eye and said, "I already did." He blinked, probably expecting a different answer. "But not for you," I added. For me, I explained that forgiveness wasn't about restoring trust, it was about reclaiming peace. That holding on to resentment was like drinking poison and expecting him to feel the pain, that I had to let it go, not because he deserved grace, but because I deserved to be free. And then I asked the question I'd carried for weeks. If I hadn't found out, how long would you have lied to me? He didn't answer, just stared down at his hands ashamed. That silence told me everything I needed. I stood up, slid my journal into my bag, and as I left the cafe, I didn't feel angry or sad or victorious. I felt clean. In the weeks that followed, I began building again. My apartment started to feel like home. I bought secondhand furniture and made it mine. I hung string lights on the windows, started collecting little houseplants that I tried not to kill. I even adopted a dog, a rescue with too much energy and one floppy ear. I named her Frankie. She's loud and messy and exactly what my quiet heart needed. I went to therapy every week. Sometimes I talked about Harrison. Other times I didn't mention him at all because slowly he stopped being the story and I started being the main character again. I found joy in weird places, in making pancakes at midnight, in lighting candles for no reason, in saying no without over-explaining, in rewatching Gilmore Girls for the 12th time, and finally identifying with Lorelai instead of Rory. Even Dina reached out. A single message, polite, formal. She said she didn't know the full truth, that Harrison had told her we were just staying together for financial reasons, that she had transferred back to the Chicago office and wanted to move on with her life. She wished me peace. I didn't reply. I didn't need to. Some chapters close with silence. One day I drove past the house. Harrison and I almost bought. It had new owners now, a couple about our age unloading boxes from a moving truck. They looked happy, hopeful. I smiled and kept driving. That wasn't my future, and thank God for that. Sometimes I still get messages from people who knew us both. Some say I went too far, that sharing the footage with his parents and boss was excessive, that I should have just walked away. But here's the thing. He didn't just cheat on me privately. He built a second life using my trust, my time, and even my money. He manipulated people. He benefited from the silence. I broke that silence, and I'm not sorry. Last week, I found an old birthday card from him in a box I hadn't unpacked yet. It read, "To many more years of adventure together." I stared at it for a moment, then I smiled just a little and tossed it in the recycling bin. Some things aren't meant to be held onto. Some things are just reminders that we loved. We lost, we learned, and we grew. If you were me, what would you have done? Would you have burned it all down or just walked away quietly? Let me know, because sometimes the way we choose to end a story says more than how it began.